Welcome to 8 Cubes. I'm Cam Best. He's Lamby Series. This is our show where two of Marvel Snap's best players break down the 8 most important topics in Marvel Snap, starting with Cassandra Nova, a 3-1 that will be part of the reward track for the new mode, Deadpool's Diner, which we'll be getting on Tuesday, I believe. Cassandra Nova is a 3-1. She has the ability to, on reveal, drain 1 power from every card in your opponent's deck. As far as we're aware, the way this works is she takes 1 power away, meaning afflicts them with -1 power and gains 1 power herself, making her a flat 3-7 that drains from everything in your deck and your opponent's deck when you play her on turn 3 against the normal deck, and a 3-19 against Arishem decks, which is going to be a very relevant interaction. Lamby, what do you think about Cassandra Nova?
Yeah, so this is not like Dark Hawk, which is like a 536 or something like that. But like, I mean, it's cheaper, right? So
Yes.
319, 317, 315 or whatever. It's crazy. It's like super duper like above average stats. So yeah, if Arishem becomes stays popular, obviously this card will naturally just see like play in normal decks anyway. And by normal decks, I mean like if you're running any form of like I don't know the Hazmat Ajax package, this kind of just goes in because it also naturally gives you like another big thing to go against Arishem. So yeah, I'm quite like interested in what Cassandra Nova can do. And also of course another thing is like what if the Arishem stuff starts to fall off? Will we see Cassandra still like be relevant? Personally, I think yes. But to what extent I'm not sure because at the end of the day 3-7 is fine. And like I think the card is generally quite strong. Like I don't see a reason why you would like not just like slam it. You can slam it on turn 3 and it's like max value, right? Or like even if you play it late, like the card is still like relatively decent size. Even if you like your opponent doesn't end up playing any of the cards that you reduced, like on turn 6 or whatever, it's still like a decent size card, right? Cassandra Nova. So very flexible card. Very excited to try out the card in many different shells for sure.
I think of her a little bit like reverse Sage, where Sage is
Yeah.
basically only good on 6. This card is basically only good on 3. But when it is played on 3, it ends up being very meaningful and impactful, right? I do think that people are overstating how good it is with Ajax. I don't think it actually is good with Ajax because the way Cassandra Nova works is it's played on 3. And the only way you're getting any procs out of her is if they draw and play a card that has been drained. They have 3 draws left in the game by the time turn 3 has happened. So they would have to draw and play all 3 of those cards in order for you to get an impact roughly equivalent to, like, I don't know, a man thing or whatever. If this card sees play in Ajax decks, it'll be because those decks are able to support running multiple good packages. Ajax and Hazmat, already a good package in the Thena deck. Maybe Cassandra goes in there just because you want some additional beef against Arishem, but you're not really doing it for that overlap. You're not really playing Cassandra for Ajax or playing Ajax for Cassandra. You're playing Ajax for Hazmat and you're playing Cassandra because she's good. And that I think is like a thing that I think I wanted to highlight because I see a lot of people talking about how this will make Ajax better. I think there's a decent chance it actually makes Ajax worse and increases the population of Luke Cages in the metagame.
Yeah. Honestly, like right now, considering like Cassandra's coming out and then Copycat's also like sort of coming out, right, at the
Yeah.
same time, in the week after. It's like there's so many good trees, Like you can literally like have a deck of 12 of the good 3 cost cards. Like I'm not saying that that's actually a deck. Like you play a Surfer and 11 of the 3 cost cards in the game right now, and you actually have like a super strong deck, because all the 3 cost cards are just like naturally super powerful right now.
Yeah. And so I'm not actually sure what their release schedule is for this. My understanding was the caches would be for Cassandra Nova, not for Cassandra Nova, but like there'd be like a blank week in the caches wherein Cassandra Nova would otherwise have been, and instead she's just going to be the card that comes out
Mhm.
on the Deadpool's Diner track. That's my understanding at the moment. It could be incorrect. So just in case it is, I did want to talk about Copycat, who is a card that I'm seeing a pretty enormous amount of hype for. There are a lot of people who are asking me, like, okay, KM, do I buy Ajax or do I hold for Copycat because everyone thinks Copycat's going to be really good? Ajax ends up being like a very solid card, but fundamentally replaceable. And I wanted to talk a little bit about Copycat versus Ajax. I'm going to start by talking about what Ajax is good at. And basically, when I think about Ajax, I think of like somewhere between Ronin and Darkhawk. He's one of those cards, right? And it's not necessarily like you're always going to need exactly Ajax. Typically, the way you're going to be playing Ajax is as part of a modular package in a mid range deck, which is to say, you're playing Ajax in your Thena deck, you're playing Ajax in whatever. But because it's such a modular package, it's unlikely that Ajax is going to be far and away the best thing to do and totally irreplaceable. Like, for example, if you took Ajax out of your Thena deck and added like a Gwenpool and a Sasquatch or whatever, you'd probably be fine, assuming you were already playing Mysterio and Mockingbird, right? Like, these decks,
Yeah.
these mid range Angela Thena decks, are modular. They start with a core and they build outward from there. Ajax is one of the pieces you can slap onto that, but not necessarily a part of that core. And I think that makes him a little bit more replaceable, despite the fact that he is very good. Do you agree with that estimation of Ajax before we get into Copycat?
Yeah, I kind of agree. Mostly what you just said regarding Ajax, right? Like he's more like an accessory to a deck rather than just like something that you like. Like it's like built around. You don't actually build around the Ajax, right? It's just he's
Yeah.
more like an accessory to a deck. Copycat, on the other hand, like it's literally my point that I want to drive home right now is like if you look at Copycat and Ajax as like two individual cards, right? Ajax needs enablers.
Yes.
Hazmat, for example. Copycat is just Copycat. Like you put this 3/5. Like the big part of her being good potentially is because she's a 3/5, right? You just put her in any in like some random deck. She copies a random effect, whether it's like the best copy in the world, or whether it's like just a random not so useful effect that she copied. She's still a 3/5 that you play on curve, which is decent, right? So I feel like in terms of flexibility of like finding homes for the cards, I think Copycat can easily find a home like more easily compared to Ajax for sure.
Yeah, I think that's the interesting thing because I know what Ajax's rough power level is at. I get it.
Mm.
It's like a very good card, but not a required card. Kind of a great balance job, honestly. Where like if this
Mm-hmm.
had released at 4/4, I do think it would have been broken. At 5/7, it
Yeah,
ends up
agree.
comparable to like other cards in the niche as this modular big guy effect. I think he's quite good, but I'm willing to like step off my own opinion a little bit and be like, I can understand why you'd want to skip him. With Copycat, though, because there's so many good 3/5s, do you think there's a chance that she ends up replaceable as well? Like, how often are you going to be in a situation where you're running her for a specific reason as opposed to just like, oh, this is the best 3/5, compared to, say, something like Nocturne, right? Where it's like, this is in so many decks because it's just generically the best 3/5. Let's say that's what Copycat becomes. She's obviously worth picking up. But let's say Copycat ends up being like the second or third best 3/5 in the game, or 3 cost card in the game. And then you're like, oh, I mean, like, did I need to buy this? I could just be running Nocturne over it in every deck I own. And
Yeah,
that's the interesting thing about me with Copycat.
yeah, I literally wanted to just say that like when you mentioned that topic, I was just thinking straight up like would I play this card over Nocturne off the top of my head without any testing? I would say no. I would say Nocturne is just like potentially the better card, right? Would I play this over Red Guardian? Currently, also no, I don't think so. I think I like both of those cards pretty well. Like Nocturne is the better card than right now, but like if I were to even compare this with Red Guardian, I think I would prefer Red Guardian because of like it's more deterministic in the sense that like I know that I'm hitting something for sure and like reducing the effect of something for sure and becoming like a 3/3 that does -2, you know. So like Copycat is like more random of a 3/5. So I don't think as of now, I don't think I would see her replacing Red Guardian or Nocturne. But having said that, her ability is one of those like her ability is really one of those cube stealer abilities, right? Like she's a 3/5 with the potential to be a 3/5 Dark Hawk, a 3/5 like blob, you know, a three well, I mean it's not really a blob, but it's like it denies your opponent's like card or something like that. So I feel like she's actually potentially good, but doesn't seem like a card that could replace some of the more powerful trees that are already being played very rampantly.
Yeah. So let's talk a little bit about Deadpool's Diner, the mode in which you will acquire Cassandra Nova by reaching 15 million bubs. I can't figure out how many that number actually is. Like I like the number exists in my head as an abstract, but I don't know how easy or hard it is to reach that. So like for me, I'm like when I look at that, I'm like, can I get that on the first day? If I like spend a bunch of gold on bub refreshes, can I get Cassandra Nova on the first day? What if she can she be in the token shop? Can I get her in the token shop? That would save me so much time. I would love if that was an option. And so my instinct is that it should be achievable for most players, but it won't necessarily be the easiest thing in the world to get very early. And so Cassandra Nova ends up being a really interesting situation because it's the sort of prototype for a new type of card acquisition. I don't know how many other gotcha games you've played, but this is a method of card acquisition I'm actually fairly familiar with, where there's like a hero you can earn as opposed to like one of the purchasable ones that ends up being like a little bit worse than those heroes, but still ends up pretty good and usable and functional and useful to your account. And Cassandra Nova feels like she's better than those, to be honest with you. But I am interested in seeing what that kind of method of acquisition could be in a game like this. Are they going to be able to keep doing Deadpool's diner type stuff and giving away, like, a pretty good card, but not like the best card in the month? I don't know. That seems interesting to me.
Yeah, so I don't want to dive too much into like the how you should play the diner right now, because that's like something I want to end on the like the final topic. But
Diner
the
brain.
diner in general, I feel like it's a very something that gets me excited for Marvel Snap. I would say, because I was just talking about this on my stream just now, that like this whole concept of like having like a reward you can earn from playing the game is like a goal, right? Like for the players, and I feel like you mentioned, I also think it's not meant to be like the most difficult goal ever. It's supposed to be attainable by anyone that puts in like effort to play the mode. So I feel like I don't think it's gonna be like that. How many million bucks that you need? I don't think it's as difficult as it looks to be, is what I assume, right? Because they don't want to gatekeep like a new and exciting card from people that might be a bit less invested or less like good at the game of sorts. So I think it's an attainable thing. Just how long? I'm gonna test it out myself personally, because like this mode actually got me a bit excited, because I have like a stream challenge that I want to do for myself regarding the buffs, whereby, like you said, right, like, because you start with a fixed amount of buffs, or what if you go bust and then you have to wait for the regen, or you could just spend a bunch of gold and like have like a bigger stack size to like wager. So I like
Yeah.
I like the concept of this. It's very interesting to see how everyone approaches like this, right? Would they like just straight up use their 240 starting buffs to just go for it, or are they gonna like get a bigger stack and then like just also then go for it and see whether they go broke, or sometimes you need a bigger stack to wager more. If not, like you can't actually wager as much, or you run out. So it's kind of interesting. I'm excited. I don't really know how this is gonna end up for everybody though, but like this is something that like I feel, because there is the snap mechanic in Marvel Snap, like you can have these kind of like making the match a higher stakes match kind of modes like in the game. And Deadpool's Diner is probably one of the first that they might do in the future.
Let's talk about the meta as it is right now. And the only real place to start is with Arishem, who has become a Thanos esque deck where the focus is on these massively disruptive 5 drops, and then they just have good stats the rest of the time via whatever it is that you are doing other than that. I wanted to address a couple of misconceptions that I see a lot. The first one is, why are people only now figuring out that Doc Ock is busted? The answer to that one is actually very straightforward, because we had Professor X before, and he was better at this. And then they nerfed Professor X, and now Doc Ock is the best version of that kind of effect, where you can just win a lane off of nothing, right? That is what's happening with Doc Ock right now. The second is, why is Ramp so good now when it's not so good with Electro? And I think a lot of that has to do with how people need to think about free rolling effects in Marvel Snap. And this is a topic we'll come back to, but one of the things that Marvel Snap deck building a lot of the time is investing as little as possible into something to get
Mhm.
as the outcome that you can get.
Correct.
So when you look at, like, for example, let's take a look at Ajax, right? A lot of people were investing very heavily into Ajax to get a minimal reward. The input output ratio was not correct. The way to play Ajax is just play him with Hazmat. Invest as little as possible in deck building costs, but reap the rewards when it comes together. The same way most Mockingbird decks are playing just Mysterio or something like that, or they're Thanos and they're free rolling, having to actually go out of their way to include it. Mockingbird decks are not very often, Agent Coulson decks. Arishem is, but it's also a deck that has 12 random cards in it, right? You want to invest as little as possible for what you get out. Arishem allows these decks to have a tempo in the early game, multiple turns to clean up after the Doc Ock late game, and they can still play multiple cards. Electro, 2 power on turn 3, restricts you from playing multiple cards, and you have to actually draw and play it on turn 3. There's so much more going for a deck that can just get things for free than a deck that actually has to invest into creating and enforcing its game plan.
Yeah, so I think one thing you mentioned is something that I want to echo and also like just remind people about Marvel Snap, which is like the deck building in Marvel Snap is actually not like it's not like some super big brain thing. Like
Yeah.
you really actually hit the nail on the head when you said the whole thing regarding the whole like you want to invest less to get more, right? That's how good Marvel Snap building really is. Like if you think about it, like in the past when I keep talking about like Annihilus and Sentry like as a small junk package in decks, right? You just play like the minimal amount of like two card A plus B combos, and then you get a very powerful effect. Mockingbird is just something that's an accessory to what you already run in like a Thanos deck, for example. It just naturally becomes good when you just play your cards the normal way, right? It just gets discounted. So like Arishem is just another thing whereby it's just inbuilt ramp, right? Inbuilt energy cheat whereby you just need to play cards on curve. You literally don't need to do anything special, you know. Like I think a lot of people always hear me say things like, "Oh, I just played my cards and I won," you know, that kind of thing. Like literally what Arishem does is you just play your cards that are more powerful because of the energy ramp than your opponent at the same point in time, and then you just win, right? Because at the end of the day, you are comparing stats on the board to see who wins the location based on who has more stats, right? So like if you are playing on average bigger stuff than your opponent naturally, because your deck literally does that, you're probably gonna be winning more often than not. Like the power output of an Arishem deck, like I'm just because I played a lot of Arishem recently, and I just realized that like it's not really okay. Yes, sometimes it's about the blob, sometimes it's about that Dark Hawk, sometimes it's about like the actual stuff you run in your deck that like are big. But like the thing is, it's not just because they are big and ahead of schedule. Like even the random things that you generate, like you play a Coulson on turn 2 in Arishem, it's actually one of the most powerful things you can do, right? Because you a Coulson on turn 2 is a 3/4 on turn 2 and a 4 drop on turn 3 and a 5 drop on turn 4, which is like more stats than your opponent will ever get to play on the same time, right? So that's why Arishem is powerful. You don't really need to do anything special. It's just the deck's inbuilt with ramp. So that's why the deck is really, really powerful right now.
Yeah, and this also like sort of cross applies, right? We talk about these modular mid-range decks where you're just like swapping packages in and out. A lot of the
Mm-hmm.
packages that you run, like that's dictated by, what matches up well into the meta. What is the thing I can put the least amount of effort into doing but get the most
Correct.
reward from doing? Speaking of those modular mid-range decks, there's like 3 or 4 Thena decks right now. There's Thena Ajax, there's Thena Gwenpool Mockingbird Sasquatch, there's Thena Silky Smooth. There's Thena Darkhawk. They're all the same deck, but they're doing this modular thing at the edges, right? They're like, okay, what package am I gonna pair with what I've got going on here? And I think that is like when you look at a deck that matches up well into Arishem, this modular mid-range deck is kind of the only thing that I really come up with where I'm like, I'm pretty sure about this one. I'm pretty sure this one matches up well. And that is a powerful place to be, where you are the one non RSM deck that you can feel really confident into RSM with. And one thing I really wanted to highlight is the way, especially the Gwenpool version, matches up pretty well into Leech and into uh, Dr. Octopus, because all of these decks run Kitty Pride, Nocturne, Jeff, Shang-Chi. All bad targets for a Dr. Octopus.
Yeah.
However, the Ajax one tends to be a little heavier on on reveals, not just Hazmat, maybe Juggernaut, maybe Sage, making it more vulnerable to Leech. The Gwenpool one just has like Sasquatch and Mockingbird in it, right? Also very good pulls off of a Dr. Octopus. And so you end up in these spots where what really I think determines which of these decks is the best is how they match up into Doc Ock and Leech. And right now, for me, that is the Gwenpool one. But there are literally 4 different versions of Thena midrange, and none of them are bad.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think one thing the Tina mid-range decks can very efficiently do is also like you can do things like just basically firstly yes you dodge the dog Ock thing because they all play Kitty, right, to begin with, like Kitty Pride, right? And the second thing is like your turn 6 is like Dark Hawk plus Kitty Pride. You play 2 cards and then your Tina gets buffed. It's like you naturally want to play 2 cards anyway. A mid-sized Kitty, the super big Dark Hawk, and then your Tina gets +4. So like it just kind of lines up very, very well, you know. Like I've seen versions with like there's also Tina mid range with Annihilus package. I've seen that before as well. There's like stuff like that running around, you know, like you can really play a lot of things because like just playing 2 powerful cards allows you to buff Tina. So yeah, I think also one thing this style of mid range deck has going for it as well. is that it's actually very easy to play. Like it's very very simple and very straightforward, you know. And like you run natural counters to Arishem, which is like the big bad boss monster right now in the game. So yeah, I think if you don't want to play Arishem, just play some form of. Sad to say, you probably have to own Thena to play Thena mid range, right? Makes sense. So I guess that's 6,000 tokens right there. But yeah, I think Thena mid range is something that you can really just like tag with whatever you want to tag yeah, for the meta. And obviously now that's like your Dark Hawk, you know, for Arishem. And maybe this Thena mid range will fit a Cassandra Nova very naturally in it as well in the future.
I think that's entirely possible.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Clog Ajax, which is actually, as of the time of recording, the highest performing Clog deck in recent days. And that makes some sense, right? Like, this is
Yeah.
replacing the dagger package in the Clog deck, and it's replacing it with some really legitimately big stuff. Like, Clog obviously is the kind of deck that can get off asymmetrical hazmats to begin with. And I'm always a fan of when decks get rid of like finicky power and put in some real beef. Ajax can be like 20 odd power in a deck like this, and having a kind of lane winning monster to that degree is legitimately very, very, very strong. So Clog right now, the goal is clog up one lane, Titania Goblin, White Widow, Debris, and then win the other lane with Ajax Hazmat, which is just like a very easy thing to accomplish because Ajax is gigantic, but can't be Shang-Chi'd, which is the most common interaction, until after you actually play the card Hazmat. You also have, of course, your Dr. Octopus, your magic, but what I think Ajax Hazmat brings to this deck is you are able to do just a normal Clog game plan that is not reliant on Doc magic. And I think that is actually quite an upgrade.
Yeah, that's so important by the way. Like magic, the relying on magic means you lose to location control, right? And then
Mhm.
relying on Doctor Octopus means sometimes you just lose because you pull Shang or the lane is actually just too huge for you to contest, you know. I really think that like Ajax at 4 would be super busted.
Oh
Because now
god.
because now they've removed the potential of like surprise guys. I can 2+4 on turn 6, right? If Ajax was 4. Like you can literally hold the Ajax all the way until you top deck the Hazmat and you just go boom, you just win out of nowhere. So now you can't do that. Now, if you ever want to top deck Ajax or you want to like play an Ajax for the win, right? You have to preemptively play the Hazmat. And then people know it's coming, then they retreat. The difference with 2+4 and the fact that you cannot do 2+5 is that 2+4, your opponent doesn't know it's coming, so they might not retreat and you get the cubes, right? But 2+5, they know it's coming. So even if you won, but it's because they retreated, you know. So I feel like Ajax at 5 is like properly well done by SD, because I think at 4 it's gonna be kind of crazy. So like yeah, I like the fact that this Clog Ajax deck doesn't really have to rely too much on like cute win conditions, you know, like the whole dog magic thing. Like you just play the cards, your own cards that curve out with the clock, and then when you do draw the Ajax, it's naturally just gonna be big, right? Because you've already played like the stuff that has got hit by Hazmat and stuff like that. So yeah, I have like a lot of like fans in my Discord that like are big, like they really like this style of deck. They really like the Clock Jax deck. Like a lot of them have been saying that they've had a lot of fun with Ajax as well. So yeah, I hope you guys are also thinking of like exploring with this card, because I think it's actually a lot of potential.
On the last episode, we marked some potential excitement around trying to figure out if Hela Lockjaw was back. I think we are both back here to say fairly conclusively that did not move the needle in a meaningful way. And part of it is that, yes, Lockjaw is 4. The other part of it is actually that, like, there's already Blink in the deck now, and she might be doing that job, honestly, a little bit better than Lockjaw ever was. And so when you add in a card like Lockjaw, what you're actually doing is diluting your like Blade Blink plays, because now that Blade can pull Lockjaw instead of like the Hela or whatever that you wanted to pull. It's a weird situation where I actually kind of think that like Blink is already filling the role Lockjaw used to fill, but better, because Lockjaw is very often you're only really getting like one or two rolls out of it. You like chuck a Jubilee in there, maybe, right? And so going through all of that effort, it doesn't actually necessarily feel worth it compared to just being a Blink Jubilee deck, which is already doing the thing that you want to actually do in Hela. And this is a long way of saying that Hela's still not very good.
Yeah, so I actually went out of the way to test this myself, because I'm a very big Lockjaw fan, right? And now that Lockjaw is like sort of like a better card than the previous 4/5 version. Not better than the 3 cost one, of course, but like so I went to test this extensively a bit, like the whole Hela thing, because I wanted to find a good like Lockjaw deck. And when I was testing the Hela deck, I realized that, like you mentioned, this Hela deck like, yes, if it does the Hela thing and then revives 3 things, it's like a lot of points, correct? But like, I couldn't ever find a spot to play the Lockjaw. Like I know this is the Hela ditch topic, but it's also talking about the Lockjaw a bit ditch topic as well, because like I never really found a spot where I wanted to play the Lockjaw, because it used to be like Lockjaw on 3, Jubilee on 4, and then you just go blink or whatever, or you just you do other stuff. Like I never really found the space and time to play a 4 cost Lockjaw and feel happy about it, because like the next turn on turn 5 is you want to blink, right? And you really want to blink the Lockjaw. And if you want to blink the Lockjaw, what's the point of playing the Lockjaw, right? So like so the more I think about it, I was like, might as well just play Jubilee on 4 into blink. That's just so much better. So yeah, I'm just here to say that I'm so sad that Lockjaw is not gonna work in Hela. But well, we might find another use case for Lockjaw in the future. But for now, yeah, no. Too bad. I'm so sad. But that's basically what happens with a nerfed card, right?
Yeah, I also talked to resident Hella expert Husky Puppies about it, and he was like, "Yeah, I tried it. It's not good. It's
So
not
sad.
worth doing." And that seems to be like the resounding conclusion of just Hella gamers all the world over is we had some hope and it got dashed. And to those Hella gamers, I say, you deserve it. So, Lamby, we typically have our final topic talking about like a theory topic or a game, like sort of sub game thing, something less specific to the metagame. Let's talk a little bit about diner brain and conquering your fear of large numbers.
Okay, so I call this topic Diner Brain, well, simply because this is probably something that you will experience when you play Deadpool's Diner. Like, whether you realize it or not, right? Okay, so if you don't know how Deadpool's Diner works already, turn 4, 5, and 6, the stakes double naturally. Like, you don't actually have to do anything. So, like, it can double to the point that it's like 32 times your initial value, which is kind of sounds like a lot, right? So, I feel like this Diner Brain thing is basically people thinking that they're actually losing a lot more cubes or bubs.
Bubs.
I think people would associate losing bubs to losing cubes. But I guess I just want to be here to say that it's actually 2 different things, right? Bubs are just naturally like there are a lot. You can afford to like win or lose a lot of bubs, and it's equivalent to like a 4 cuber on ladder. Like 16, I guess 16 bubs is like 4 cubes on ladder. So I guess a lot of people will be thinking like, oh, these are a lot of bubs that I'm losing. I should be a bit more conservative. I should play differently. I should like retreat here. I mean, obviously, yes, if you're not gonna win, then retreat, sure. But like you shouldn't be like excessively playing more safe or like playing differently from how you're playing ladder. Because at the end of the day, if you were gonna retreat on an 8 cuber on ladder, it's the same as retreating for a 32 bubber 32 bubber in Deadpool's diner, right? It's the same. It's just that the game naturally multiplies your bubs, so you feel like maybe you are losing more. Okay, I don't know if everyone will feel this way, but I think some people will be like a bit daunted by the fact that, oh no, this is a lot of bubs I'm losing. But I'm just trying to say that, like, actually, if you think about it, it's just a retreating an 8 cuber. It's the same, right? It just looks more because they naturally multiply the thing. But if everybody is on the same multiplier, nobody is on the multiplier. So just try not to be too worried, I guess.
I'm wondering about the other kind of diner brain, which is
Okay.
I have infinite bubs. They regenerate. I don't really care. Let's just go all in every time.
True.
Like, I'm kind of
But
wondering if,
regeneration is time constrained, right? To my understanding,
yes.
like it's not. Yeah, so I
It's
guess I
like
guess
what?
it's still
Okay,
a
I'll go play
commodity.
ladder. I don't care. I'm just gonna keep going all in. That's
True.
kind of my like been the way I've been thinking about how I was gonna play it. Like I was kind of expecting to just be like, yeah, I'm the guy who's gonna go all in every time. I'm snapping, I'm going, and I'm just gonna like what? Okay, I'll go play ladder. I'll go buy the regen. I don't really care. I'll be good.
There's
I'm
also
good with
the
it.
the the, the whale method, right? Because I know you can buy
Yeah,
like I forgot what's the max, like 8,000 gold worth of buffs, right? It's like the whale at the poker table that just keeps rebuying in the cash game, and then he doesn't care, right? Because he has unlimited money, so he just keeps rebuying in the cash game and goes all in and farms the people with a shorter stack. I
I'm
don't know how
about
that's
to.
gonna.
I'm about to provide a stimulus to the bub economy. I'm about
We're
to
gonna
be giving
inject
it away.
liquid. KM's gonna inject liquidity into the into the market with his constant 8,000 gold worth of bubs. I know, I'm just
it's
kidding, but like I
it's
might
so
actually try
real.
one time though. I just buy 8,000 gold and just go ham and see what happens. Like if I get super lucky, maybe I get Cassandra in one day, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I'm just gonna inject liquidity into the bub market. I'm Jerome Powell. That's what's happening right here. Our ladies, gentlemen, non-binary pals. That's what's happening right here. This is now a financial advice podcast. This is not financial advice.
I was gonna say that if you didn't say that, but yes.
All right, y'all. Thank you so much for making it through that video. I've been Cam Best. He's been Lamby Series. You can catch other episodes of 8 Cubes on his channel. We do one a week on each channel. As always, It has been a pleasure. Thank you so much for watching. Lamby, take us out.
Thank you so much for being here with us. The next one will be on my channel. Thank you so much, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.